I welcome all of you in the third day of our lecture series, Enlightening Education. Today, we will dive deeply into another aspect of any human being, but in our specific case, a teacher, that is motivation. And to actually work in real world, only motivation never helps. One has to be a dynamic person who would engage children in diverse experiences. And to talk about this journey of a teacher from motivation to dynamism, we have with us Mr. Prashant Divekar. He has completed his formal education in MSc Botany and also completed Masters in Education. He has been associated with Jnana Prabodhini for last 25 years. He is also the member of Executive Council of Jnana Prabodhini. He has taught in Jnana Prabodhini's School of Gifted, that is Jnana Prabodhini Prashala, situated in Pune. He was principal of Jnana Prabodhini's Solapur branch for 3 years. He has led the teacher training department for more than 10 years and has conducted training workshops all over the India. Northeast region of India is his one of the favorites. Currently, he heads the educational department of Jnana Prabodhini, that is Shaikshanic Upakram Sanshodhika or Educational Activity Research Center. He is also the editor of the monthly magazine for teachers, is E-Prashikshak. He is advisor to many institutes working in education. He was a noted member of Vijnan Parishad in Maharashtra. I have mentioned many things, but he is also my teacher. I mean, he has taught me from my 6th grade. So I personally know him, and he's very passionate about the subject, and he's a great speaker. So I request Prashant sir to share his thoughts upon the subject with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Shubhankar, for brief introduction. Today, I will discuss regarding that most important thing which is required for teachership is which is mentioned by Madhuratai in the Panchakosha. This is Pranamaya Kosh. Prana means energy. And she told us that energy is visible or expressed, or you can identify that this person is having that vital energy in him if he acquires some skills, if he is enthusiastic. So that's why what kind of energy a teacher had to nurture in himself, how he can enrich his pranamaya kosh is mainly I will discuss today. I will start my presentation with a small narration. A few years back, I had visited, I was at Dibrugarh for National Talent Search Examination workshop, and I was conducting at Vivekananda Kendra Vidyalaya at Dibrugarh. And after that, I traveled in Arunachal Pradesh, and I was at Jairampur for an interaction with group of students. And you know that Arunachal is at the eastern part of India, and I requested the principal that Jairampur is near to border. How long the border is from the school, VKV school situated at Jairampur. He told that nearby you can go to Pangsu Pass, and there is a small market is there. It is a weekly market, but you can go to the marketplace and you can see the post there, the border town which is situated, and then you can visit this Burma and India border. So early morning, I started from the school. You know that when we travel to east, there is early sunrise, and around morning 4, you will have bright sun shining in sky. So when we travel east, there is you will find this geographical phenomena. That's why I started early morning around 4:30 and 5. And when I was traveling to this Pangsu Pass, I saw around 5:30 in the morning, I was passing through Nangpong, a small village, which is, you can say, a last that way, a big marketplace, a big town before that Pangsu Pass. And when I was passing through that Nangpong village, I saw that there was a government school, and in that government school, a teacher along with his 20-25 student is practicing yoga. So I was very curious that early morning teacher and students, they are performing together the physical exercises. So I stopped there and I visited the school. they were practicing their yoga asanas, and they saw us, and then the teacher, the name of the teacher was Singh sir. He was from Bihar, and he was teaching in a remote small village government school at Nongpong. So I asked him, why early morning you are interacting with your student and you are helping them to do their physical activities. So he told me, his narration was that since last 20 years I am practicing yoga, and it was quite visible that he was having good control over his physique, because he demonstrated Shirshasana, Mayurasana, the difficult asanas. He told that one day I thought that since last 20 years I am practicing yoga. He was in the school appointed as a mathematics teacher, but he went to his principal and he told him that since I am good at yogasana, I acquired enough skills, so I want to teach yogasana to the students during physical education period. But the principal told him that you are appointed in the school as mathematics teacher, so you are let the thing will handled by physical education teacher. Don't interfere in that. Keep you practicing yoga for your health only at your residence. So he went back and he continued his practice of doing yoga at his residence. But again, he was not happy with that, and he was eager to teach yogasana to his students. So again, he requested his principal, but principal again refused. Then he thought that why to try to teach yogasana during school hours. So he went to the classes and he requested students that if you are interested in learning yogasana, you can come early morning. As I am staying nearby school, I will come around 5:30 to 6 in the school, and the students who can walk to school, or the students who can come to school on their own by bicycle, they can come and I will teach you the yogasanas. And since last it was the incident happened 4 to 5 years back, before that yoga day, introduction of yoga day, and he told me that since then 20-25 students, they regularly come to learn yogasana from me. Again, I asked him that why you are interested in teaching yogasana. So he said that, sir, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मुझे जो जो चीज अच्छी आती है वो मुझे बच्चों को सिखाना चाहिए. A teacher from a small village from Bihar, teaching in a small village in Arunachal Pradesh, and he tells me that I want to deliver the best which I have with me. And this urge of delivering the best which is having in with us is the first thing which drives the motivation towards becoming a good teacher. That's why we should know that what we are having with us. And yesterday we discussed about the self. So initially that self, what we are having with us, and then that drive, inner motivation, which will force us to deliver the best which we are having with me. Um, and it was very I was very fascinated with this his sentence that, sir, मुझे जो जो चीज अच्छी आती है वो मैं सिखाऊंगा. Throughout the year I visit around 50 to 100 schools, and I interact with teachers from around 500 schools, and I have seen that teachers, they live their life in compartments. In school they are teachers, but in society they are something different. In school, suppose I am mathematics or science teacher and I am having good oratory, I can I organize different lectures in the town. I work as anchor for different events in the town. I'm a good storyteller, but I will not share the skill set with my students. I had seen that teachers, they are good in music. They can play instrument, they can sing. But if they are mathematics teacher in school, they will limit their boundary to deliver the content regarding mathematics. They will not interact with the student using the skill set which they are having, their strengths. They can help students to learn how to tell stories. They can help students during the annual gathering and annual cultural demonstrations, that how to do the anchoring, or how to sing, or how to play different instrument. But they live in compartment, and this living in compartment is a threat, I will say, that to become a good teacher. You have to present yourself in front of student as a whole. You are not supposed to limit yourself as a mathematics teacher, the person who wants to deliver the content regarding mathematics. You are appointed as a school. I am appointed in Jnana Prabodhini as biology teacher, but I am appointed in Jnana Prabodhini as Prashant Divekar. That's why I have to express myself, as I have to enter the class as a personality. That's why living in compartment, you have to come over this. That's inner drive, what Singh sir was having with him, that I should give the best which I have with me, is the first thing you should drive in yourself to become a good motivator teacher. And then comes number of aspects regarding the motivation. What is motivation is the first question which we have to ask. There are two pictures in this slide, and one person is running and he has attached that fishing with him, and in second somebody is driving him. So what is motivation? Motivation is the inner energy, or that drive that moves people to do something naturally. That inner drive that was driving Singh sir to deliver his best with his students. That's the inner drive is very important thing, and you can define motivation as it is the inner drive that moves people to do something. You can say that motivation determine human behavior by energizing it and giving it direction. Our behaviors are determined by either our inner motivation or with the person with we are living. If that person is enough motivated, he triggers to ignite that inner drive in us. That's why motivation directly reflects in behavioral change in the life path. That's why this motivation is very important, and as teacher we have to think about motivation, whether we are working with due to somebody's force or some thing which is dragging us to work, or we are at the driving seat. That having at the driving seat is very important. And as a teacher, the primary motivation with which we join in teaching profession, the primary thing which we are having with us to join in teaching profession is the content knowledge which we are having, and we want to deliver that content knowledge. We want to deliver that subject knowledge. We want to share that subject knowledge with our students. That's why motivation to teach is the first thing on which a teacher works, or this forces a teacher to join the teaching profession. And the first thing is we should ask to ourselves is that why I become a teacher and why I want to be a teacher. When I joined Jnana Prabodhini in 1999, there was an introductory camp at the beginning of the year, and a lady teacher, she was in her late 50s or 60s, she came to talk to us. She was not having that way attractive personality or charming nature, but when she started to deliver her speech, the subject knowledge was very visible to us. That authority she was having on the content was very visible, or that authority was reflective. She asked us three questions. We were beginner, new teachers who were appointed in Jnana Prabodhini were in that workshop, and she told us, if you want to become a good teacher, always ask three questions to yourself. And the first question which she asked was, do you love your subject? You might laugh that why I'm asking this question and how it is related to motivation. But I had seen many teachers, they are graduate, postgraduate in Marathi, English, but they are not having 10 books with them. They had not read any novel, though they are done their post-graduation. It reflects that they are not interested in the subject. They are doing it just for achievement purpose, to do their graduation. Are you interested in your subject? Are you interested in your subject? You should ask this question. And I know few teachers that due to their interest in subject, they drive the students like that bagpiper. I know one teacher, he teaches in a nearby school at Jnana Prabodhini, Raman Bagh Prashala, Mohan Shete sir. He is history teacher. He is very popular among the student and he normally conducts history sessions very effectively. But he is keenly involved in history of Maratha, history of Shivaji Maharaj, history of Pune. And normally, what is his practice? He will announce that on Sunday morning, I will take you to a heritage walk. And it is not a compulsory thing you have to attend. But he declares that on Sunday morning at 9 a.m., you have to be at this place and I will introduce you history of Pune. He conducts such history walks. And you will be surprised that on Sunday morning, though it is not having any academic weightage, students, not only students, their parents, not only parents, but colleagues of Mohan Shete sir, also they join him for this heritage walk. And he spares some extra time apart from his defined task in the school to teach history. This reflects his involvement in the subject. He is very passionate about the subject. Number of teachers I had seen that they are very passionate about their subject. And this passion regarding the subject attracts the students toward the subject and which helps us to build that bond with our students. That's why this first point is very important, that do you love your subject? One should ask to himself. Second thing is, do you love your profession? I know that many teachers, they join teaching profession as a last choice for their career path. But as you are in this noble profession, you should learn how to love this profession, because this profession is having some values. It carries some values with you, and ultimately you are leading the torch for everything. The nation looks after the role of teacher. That's why one should ask this question. Many of you in this meeting know Vivek Pongshe sir, and I will like to narrate one incident in his last days. You know that Pongshe sir, he was good mathematics and physics teacher, and he was suffering from cancer in last days. And at our educational activity research center, we are having a small studio where we record videos for Diksha portal, science videos, and he was doing some recording in the lab, in that studio. In studio, there is carpet, and outside there is good tiles are there, slippery tiles are there. He finished his recording and he started walking out of that studio. And when he came out of that studio, there he trembled. So he was not having that energy to hold himself also. We holded him and he sat in a chair, and his first response was that since last 40 years I am teaching physics, but I forgot the law that when light travels from one medium to another medium, there is a change in path. Same way he told that I was traveling on a different surface in the studio, and when I entered on a different surface outside the studio, there was different frictions or different energy was required, and due to that energy, that path has to be changed. So continuously he was involved in the content and how I can deliver the content, how can I introduce the content. So such small examples were with him. It reflects your involvement in the profession itself. That's why this second question is very important, that do you love your profession? The third question we should ask to judge our motivation is that do we love our students? I've seen many teachers, they limit their interaction with the students to deliver the content only. Why he had not completed his homework? If the child is having some problem at his home, they don't bother for that. I know that how to score good marks in mathematics, and I'm preparing you for that board examination, and you have to follow me. They limit themselves to that subject knowledge and the content delivery. But you are working with the students, and it is a live interaction, which is not only helping students to learn the things, but it is helping us to enrich ourselves. One quote is there, in learning, you will teach, but in teaching, you will learn. When we are teaching, we are actually learning. That's why we should have good interaction with the student so that we can work together to explore the concept. We can work together to learn together. And when we learn with the students, that interaction becomes very fruitful and joyful for us also. Because not we are only delivering the content, but we are co-learners with the students. That's why this co-learning is very important. That's why I will say that as a teachers, you don't teach a subject, you teach a child is very important thing, because ultimately we are having a human interaction with each other, and how you nurture this human interaction is very important thing, and we have to learn that how we can interact with the student. That's why these three questions which Sane madam asked to us in first of my training at Jnana Prabodhini, I'm still having that hold on these three questions. I am asking continuously these three questions to keep me motivated to have good interaction with my students, to play my effective role in the school also. A motivated teacher. What are features of a motivated teacher? First thing, teacher should have an internal desire to educate students academically and socially. Academically means we are appointed in the school to deliver a specific content to a specific syllabus, a specific textbook we have to teach. We are preparing our students for a specific examination. So that's why we are preparing our students academically, is one aspect. If I am teaching history, I should have that vision that after teaching history for 20 years, 2 or 3 students, they should become historian. If I am teaching science, 2 or 3 students, they should become scientists, because I am interacting with them academically. But ultimately, we are interacting with the students. It is a human interaction with students, and we have to teach him how to live in the society. If I am teaching mathematics, I am teaching him problem solving, which is ultimately going to help him to live in the society. If I am teaching him method of science, ultimately that is going to help that child to live in the society, to live his life. That's why it is a social interaction, to live socially also. So there are two aspects: how development of a child with the subject interest and development of personality. And teachers should have that internal desire to educate students academically and socially is very important thing, or very important indicator of motivated teacher. Many times I had seen that teachers, they work for betterment of their school. I know that if few of you had seen government schools, till the school gets that grant, government grant or aid, teachers, they are very passionate about their work. But after getting grant, their motivation declines because security aspects come in the picture. So what is the relation between security and insecurity is associated with motivation? We have to think about that. But the institutional demands and constraints of workplace will force a teacher to work in a better way. Each institution is having its own vision. And as a teacher, we are the pioneer, we are the pathfinder, leading toward to fulfill the vision of that institution. That's why that vision of that institution ultimately leads to motivate us to work for that institution, to work for that educational objective. That's why institutional demands, you can see that motivated teachers, they work for institutional demands. And many times there are difficulties. During Corona time, I know that many teachers, they adopted to technology-based education. I know that where there is no network, the teacher, they circulated the printed worksheet to the student so that their learning should continue. That's why constraints or limitation of workplace, ultimately it drags that I have to do this. Many times limitations are very helpful to do the best. That's why these two things or these two features you can observe in motivated or the teacher who is having the inner drive in teacher is visible. These two aspects are there. But I want to stress the important thing. Ultimately, that motivation depends on three things: the subject knowledge, your love with your profession, and the third thing is how you are involved in your student. That's why involvement in subject, involvement is profession, and involvement in students. These three involvements are very important, and ultimately this involvement quotient is very important if you want to identify yourself as a motivated teacher. That's why we have to think about our involvement quotient. You might have learned, you might know that IQ is there, EQ is there. Same way, this is a different kind of IQ that a teacher has to think that if you want to find his quotient regarding motivation, he has to think about his involvement quotient. So a good teacher has to think about these three aspects. Just wait for a minute. I will switch to next slide. Okay. So how we can identify a highly motivated teacher with a low motivated teacher? A highly motivated teacher shows always interest in what is happening in the school, what is happening in the world, how I can relate the events which are there in the world with my content. Always starving to do something more. He's always busy, engaged. He's focused with his educational activities, educational input, what kind of interaction he should have with the students. So he's very focused. These are four things which are reflected in personality or action of a teacher. So lack of interest, doing something minimum, disengaged, distracted, these are the four things which you can observe in low motivated teacher. But if you want to develop your motivation, you should have good connect with your leaders, with school management, with principal, with colleague, with parents. That's why you can say that Mohan Shetty sir, I gave that example on for that heritage walk. Not only students, but teachers, parents, they were very eager to volunteer themselves for that heritage work. It reflects that he is having good connect with school leaders, his colleagues and parents also. That connect is very important thing, and if you can develop that connect with school leaders, parents and teachers, ultimately it will help you to nurture the motivation. He is always connected, or he is always working for his professional development, and he is performing number of experiments in his classroom teaching. He is trying different ways to deliver the concept in classroom. So he can connect his skill development with the requirements which are expected to perform in a better way in the classroom. He is always secure and confident about his own abilities, is one of the main features of a highly motivated teacher. And he is always eager to put efforts. So these are few characters which you can reflect on them, whether I am having these characters in me. And that if you want to be a motivated teacher, then you have to nurture these qualities in you. So these are the features which are visible in motivated teacher. There are 4 aspects on which we have to think. One is engagement and involvement in the student, as I mentioned earlier. Second is emotional attachment. So engagement and emotion is having a relation, but there are negative aspects also. Why a teacher is demotivated? We have to think on that. There might be happening with his family, there might be with some aspects with his personality, school environment, which is dragging him not to do the things. Those true aspects, that dissatisfaction on which we have to think. And these 4 aspects are very important, and we have to think on these 4 aspects to develop our school system in a better way. So what are the factors which are restraining or limiting the motivation? First thing is many times after doing service for 10, 15, 20 years, we feel satisfied. We set a few standards for our performance and we are happy with those standards. And this feeling of satisfaction is a threat or is alarming thing on which we have to think. What kind of parameters are there? Many times we feel that values associated with teaching profession, moral values, it's okay that my students, they are, I know many teachers that they provide copy or cheats during exam to their students. I want good result, that's why I'm helping my students to achieve more. But examination is something different. So they are compromising with their moral values and they are satisfied with their performance. Creativity is one aspect. After doing the things for many years, we keep on doing the things in same way. We feel proud that since last 10 years, 20 years, I am using same notes. Since last 5 years, I am using same PowerPoint to deliver the content. When such kind of situations, you have to reflect, that means you are limiting yourself. You are satisfied with what you are doing. Your creativity, you have to think about how you can think differently. We are satisfied with our achievements and our co-workers or colleagues also. Okay, I have to work with this staff, so they are having this level. So if I am having activity level at this and my colleagues are performing at this level, I am satisfied to come to that level instead of lifting them to the upper level. So this satisfaction is very restraining thing, factor which affects the motivation. Second thing is there are many aspects, the school environment, the government rules, involvement of parents or approach of parents. Ultimately, it leads to dissatisfaction and it affects our performance. It affects our motivation or it triggers demotivation. So dissatisfaction is one of the things which one of the factor which we can say which restrains the motivation. Mandated curricula and exam, a standardized exam pattern. 10 years I have to teach same textbooks, no change in textbook, no change in exam pattern. I'm not having any freedom to deliver the content. Same way I have to stick to the syllabus. So mandated syllabus and exam structure is a limiting factor for motivation, and lack of that drive or the passion which Singh sir was having with him. I want to give my best. It is the inner motivation or inner drive which is limiting factor for motivation, and as a teacher we have to think about this limiting factor. So factors leading to demotivation, and we have to cut these factors. And demotivation, if we remove this D in this picture, ultimately we will perform as a motivated teacher. So what are the factors on which we have to think? First is stressful nature of teaching profession, and day by day after RTE the stress is increasing on us. Government is having, or government authorities, institutions, they are demanding 100% results from us, and that's why it is forcing us to do some different negative practices or negative approaches. So stress is there. Parents are also very demanding in these days. You cannot have what kind of interaction you are having with their child. They are always judging that interaction. That's why a kind of tension is there. Something happens, there will be a breaking news. If midday meal is there, and some if you are providing midday meal for 4 years, but on a day a small pebble is there in that midday meal, it becomes a breaking news. So stress is increasing. The job profile is also changing. Many of you during this period, they have to do survey, they have to do corona duties, so number of things. So a stress is building in on teaching profession, and it is leading to demotivation. Restriction on teacher autonomy. You cannot decide what you want to teach. You cannot decide what kind of activities you can have with the student. And I think that it is not with the agencies or institution which are restricting our autonomy, but it is that satisfied approach which is limiting our autonomy. After having continuous comprehensive evaluation, in formative evaluation, I can organize number of activities. It is giving me the freedom to have field visit. It is giving me freedom to work with students, to guide them for project work, to have activity based learning in my classroom, to give different worksheets for them. So continuous comprehension, continuous comprehensive evaluation, and in that formative evaluation, actually it was a space where we can enjoy that autonomy. But I know that due to this satisfied approach, that restriction was there to enjoy that autonomy. And we have to think about that, how we can introspect that as a teacher, how we are not using the spaces in school structure or education system to enjoy that autonomy. Project-based learning is a space where I can learn with the student, I can work with the student, I can go beyond the textbook, I can go beyond the syllabus, but we are not using project-based learning as a tool or method of teaching learning in the school. So teacher, they have to find the spaces where they can enjoy the autonomy. Second, the next thing is in this is insufficient self-efficiency due to inappropriate training. Training is very important thing, and we have to think about our skill set development and limited skill set. I know that I know during this pandemic situation, many institutes, they had not trained their teachers for this online mode or this digital teaching learning process. And due to the inappropriate training, they are not having good interaction with their students. That's why training is one of the important thing, or a limited or a bad training also you can say, which leads to demotivation. Repetitiveness of content. Same thing I have to teach for continuously for many years. That thing is limiting ourselves. So repetitiveness of content. Lack of opportunities for intellectual development. Same content I have to deliver, same example I have to solve. So where I can continue my learning. And the school system is not having any space for that intellectual drive or desire which a teacher is having. So I again say that you have to find the teaching learning methods where you can enjoy that joy of learning something new. Inadequate career structure. So a growth path is not defined. I will join as a teacher and I will retire as a teacher. So what kind of leadership avenues I am having in school system? If the school system is lacking such kind of leadership opportunities or self-development spaces, ultimately it will lead to demotivate a teacher. Exposure to both positive and negative influences, society, their demands, number of things are there which are ultimately leading to demotivate us to work us as a better teacher. So what to do for that? So there is a path, and if you travel on this path, if you motivate yourself for this path, ultimately you can achieve that Anandamaya Kosha of a teacher. You can touch that Anandamaya Kosha of teacher. So the first thing which drives a teacher to his teachership, I mentioned in first slide, being motivated to teach. I want to teach something, I want to tell something, I want to share something is the first step or first indicator of a motivated teacher. But you have to work to being motivated to involve in the process of becoming a teacher as a lifelong career, to become a life coach. Since last day, both speakers, they focused that always we think about development of students. And in the question answer session where there were also few questions where what I can do with my students, what I can do for my students. Both the speaker told us that you have to focus the change lens on your development, yourself. And if we nurture this teachership, ultimately our identity will change. What should be my identity? Good mathematics teacher, good science teacher, or he taught me life skills. After school days also, students are coming to you, they are visiting you, they are having a talk with you regarding their career, regarding their life problem, then you become a life coach. So what kind of identity you want to learn? Mathematics teacher or teacher of some X student, Y student? So we have to think that we have to travel the path from subject teacher to life coach. And this traveling on this path is a very important thing, and what we can do to travel on this path. So to improve motivation, to nurture motivation, what can do? So aim for a further degree or learning. I will say degree is not a proper word, but now you can register yourself for any online courses. So continuous improvement in content, subject knowledge, continuous improvement in subject knowledge and the pedagogical knowledge, both things. So continuous learning is first thing which will help you to keep yourself on the motivation path. The second thing is development of capacities leading to proficiency, skill development, that pranamaya kosha of a teacher, skill set ultimately reflects the energy in the teacher. If you are good storyteller, a teacher has to be good storyteller. He has to learn how to tell stories, because ultimately when students will get involved in that learning process, if you know how to talk with them, so that skill set of teacher, and if you have proficiency on that skill set, ultimately it will help you to work as a better teacher. Develop a system for collaboration and teamwork. In school also there are spaces where we can work in collaboration. In school we have science labs, we have science club, we have mathematics club, we have excursion club, we have that cultural club. Number of spaces are there in school system also. So instead of working individually, if we work in collaboration, in team, working in team is very important to keep yourself motivated. So instead of working individually, try to work with your colleagues as a team. Try to work jointly. You can have collaborative sessions. You can deliver the content simultaneously. Participate in curriculum design. So CC, formative evaluation, you can design the framework for the subject delivery for your content, your subject. So curriculum design, each school should have a spectrum of activities where the students will learn the subject. Why schools are different from each other? Though they are affiliated to same board, same qualified teachers are there, still each school is having different identity. It is due to that spectrum of activity that school has developed, and that spectrum of activity is nothing but the design of that school, curriculum design of. So you should work to enjoy that autonomy which you can enjoy in curriculum designing. Activity designing is very important thing on which you have to work. And the last thing which will help you to work, improve your motivation, is encourage yourself for positive retrospective self-evaluation. Where I am on the right path or not. You have to do continuous self-evaluation. Tomorrow we will have separate session on this retrospective self-evaluation of a teacher. How I can look back and view what kind of path I am taking as my teachership. That's why this positive retrospective self-evaluation is a very important thing. And tomorrow we will discuss about this in detail, how we can nurture this practice or habit of retrospection. So ultimately, why this motivation important, and ultimately what happens due to this motivation is practical question we have to understand. A motivated teacher leads to innovative educational activities. So only I want to do this is not sufficient. That desire should turn into action. That's why I'm using the word constructive motivation. मैं करना चाहता हूं और मैं कर रहा हूं, फर्क है दोनों में. That's constructive motivation lead to innovative learning experiments in school. The teachers who are motivated, they do continuously how I can have different activities in the school, which reflects in innovative educational experiments in the school. So that constructive motivation leads to dynamism. And this dynamism is a very important thing, and why a teacher should be have this dynamism in him. So you have to think about how constructive motivation can lead to innovative educational experiment in your school, and what kind of innovative experiments you can have. So first area where you can actually work is innovations in teaching learning process. You can have activity based learning, you can have project based learning, you can have field visit, you can have excursions, you can develop number of resources. So what kind of innovative teaching learning practices you are developing in your school? Ultimately this motivation will reflect, or it will get converted into good teaching learning practices to develop your school as an innovative school or experimental school or a quality institution. It will lead to personality development of a teacher and student also. Ultimately, a team of motivated teacher, it will lead to build that spectrum of educational activities in the school, which will help to nurture the culture of learning in the school, to improve the school climate. So your motivation will be reflected in culture of learning in the school. So school, environment and society. So what kind of educational activities I can have in the school? What kind of educational activities I can organize for my students in surrounding environment? What kind of educational activities I can organize so that students, they can understand their society, is very important thing. And at Jnana Prabodhini, we have number of activities where we give our students opportunity to explore the concepts in the surrounding, to go to society and to understand society in better way. Because the motto of educational institute, that institutional drive, man making and nation building. So always we have to keep ourselves motivated with that tagline, man making and nation building. For that, ultimately, this dynamism is very important, or you can say that this constructive motivation is a very essential thing on which we have to work, and or due to our this motivational drive, which it will be reflected into innovative educational practices. So what to do to nurture this motivation? So there are 3 steps. As we are working in a team, you should have 2 friends with you. One is inspiration awakener, which will help you to keep yourself motivated. And second, you should hold hand of a new teacher, or you should hold hand of a colleague or a student to transform your inspiration. So both things are required. An input is also required and an output is also required. So inspirational awakeners, you have to live, you should learn with them. So co-living, co-action and continuous action is very important thing. I don't know today, Vishwas Lapalkar sir is there in this meeting, but now he has shifted himself to Kolkata, but he was at Pune for last few years, and I was enjoying to conduct teachers training with him, and those 3 to 4 days living with him, he was my Prerna Jagruti Mitra. So you have to find a friend who will help you to awaken the inspiration inside you. That inspirational awakeners are essential. So as shown in the picture, you have to hold hand of a person and you have to help a person to transform your inspiration. So one-way interaction is not useful. That input and output is very important. And for that, living with a person who is motivated or awakener of motivation. But second thing is very important thing, which was mentioned by Madhurata in his first session, in her first session, is defining resolutions, defining your goal, defining your objectives, and what on which facets you will work this year. So writing resolution is very important thing, that this year I'm going to read these 5 novels. If I'm teaching history, I will visit these 4 historical places. I will read these 2 books. This year I will visit a reserve forest if I'm a biology teacher. Likewise, you should learn how to write resolutions. I will I will do home visits of 5 students this year. So likewise, if you write your resolutions, those resolutions will help you to maintain yourself on this path. That's why finding this Prerana Jagruti Mitra is very important thing. That many times that what I said, that we feel satisfied with our colleagues, with our performance, because we are not holding hand of a Prerana Jagruti Mitra, the motivational awakener. And the last thing is, so writing resolution, living in harmony with Prerana Jagruti Mitra, and the last thing is you have to travel a lot. You have to see the world. You have to see institutions. A very senior friend and senior language teacher, Avinash Binimale, Professor Avinash Binimale, he's a German scholar. One day when I came back from a family tour, he asked me which places you had visited. So I told him that I visited this temple, I visited this museum. He asked me one question: have you seen any school in that town? I said, I had not seen any school in that town. He told me that if you want to become a good teacher, you have to see number of institutions. Ultimately, that school reflects the town itself. Each school has having some uniqueness. That's why this traveling is very important. And I will end my presentation with a small narration. A few years back, I visited Manipur. And a friend of mine, he told me that if you go to Manipur, please visit a small village. The name of village is Char Hazari. It is around 1.5 hour travel. You have to travel for about 1.5 hour from Imphal. I was not knowing any special feature of that school. Okay, I told my friend that if I find time, I will definitely like to visit that school. So one day I called the principal. Name of principal was Shankarji Khatida. I called the principal, Sanskruti Vidyalaya, name of that school was, that I will visit your school tomorrow. And due to some traveling problems, and I reached late. In Manipur, same way, the school timings are 8 to 2. But as I had sent him a message that I am coming, and the school hours were over, students were not in the school, but the principal and teacher, his team was there in the school. So he introduced his school, why the feature, how many students are there, campus, what kind of facilities he's having. And he told me that why we founded this school. It is a remote school in Kuki belt, where Nepali people are living in a Christian belt vicinity in terrorist affected area. His father was interested in to establish a Ved Pathshala, but it was not possible because only limited number of Hindus were there. So establishment of Ved Pathshala was not possible. That's why they started with normal school. But his father was having passion that the students in my school, they should learn Sanskrit. And the principal Shankarji told me that from first standard to 10th standard, since last 40 years, we are teaching Sanskrit. I was very then, till that I was, it's okay, good school I'm visiting. I was having in that view. But he told me that since first standard to 10th standard, we are teaching Sanskrit, and we had developed our syllabus, because our objective is that to introduce Sanskrit is very important. Indian tradition and Sanskrit is having close relation. and to nurture that Indian tradition, students, they have to learn Sanskrit. The goal was defined by them. I said that, okay, you are doing this, but how you can find Sanskrit teachers? Because in Pune also it is very difficult to get good Sanskrit teachers. Because limited number of students, they do their graduation in Sanskrit, post-graduation Sanskrit. He told me that Sanskrit graduates or trained teachers, we are having from 8, 9, 10 standard, but we had asked number of people, educated people from the villages, that we will teach you Sanskrit, you have to learn the Sanskrit, and then you have to volunteer in the school to teach the student spoken Sanskrit. And from first standard to up to 7th standard, they were having a team of 40 volunteers, parents, past students. They had trained them to conduct few sessions for spoken Sanskrit. So he had developed his team. And at the end, that's why that he was enjoying that freedom of autonomy, which I have mentioned earlier. Am I audible? In chat box, there is not able to hear
Yes, sir.
you.
No, you are
Okay. So he told me that our specialty is that we are teaching Sanskrit from first standard to 10th standard, and he continued his narration that due to our efforts for last 40 years, Manipur board has accepted Sanskrit as a language, elective language. Now instead of English, Hindi, instead of Hindi, schools can take Sanskrit as a subject. And since we had helped the Manipur board to develop Sanskrit textbooks also, and he was very passionate to share this experience. And he told me that since this is the 3rd year, that's 5 schools, they have selected Sanskrit as second language in their school. And this year, this will be the first board batch, SSC board batch, state board batch, that they will have Sanskrit as second language. So I congratulated him for his efforts to promote Sanskrit in remote state of Manipur. And at the end, I asked one question to him. It's okay that 5 schools, they have adopted Sanskrit as their second language. But suppose first year, if the students, if they will not score good marks in Sanskrit, whether the school policies will change. Again, they will go back to Hindi as second language. If they are not getting good results, then what will you do? For single school, the board cannot give option of second language as a Sanskrit. So after hearing this question, that what you will do if other schools will not volunteer for Sanskrit popularization, he smiled and he told me that if board is not allowing, but we will continue, because his words were, हमने तय किया है, किसी ने कहा नहीं था हमको संस्कृत सिखाना चाहिए, 40 साल से हम संस्कृत सिखाते आ रहे हैं, पहली से 10वीं कक्षा तक, तो हमने तय किया है हमारे स्कूल में क्या सिखाना चाहिए, तो हमने तय किया है तो हमारे स्कूल में हम सिखाते रहेंगे, बोर्ड बोलते हैं या नहीं बोलते हैं, बोर्ड अलाउ करता है या नहीं करता है, it will not matter for us, because we had defined what we want to do in our school. And this thing is very important thing. A school or institution has to think that you should be able to say that we are doing this. हमने तय किया है, इसलिए हमारे स्कूल में हम सिखाते रहे और सिखाते रहेंगे. This is dynamism. I will end my presentation and open the session for your remarks or your questions. A small book is there, Jonathan Livingston Seagull. It is a story of, you can say that a path, or it is a story of a teacher and student. And in that book, a small sentence is there, and always that sentence helps me to keep motivated as a teacher, the sentence says that जो ज्ञान की शलाका आपने पाई है, the knowledge which we are having, वो ज्ञान की शलाका जो हमने पाई है, हमने जो सीखा है, वो ज्ञान के लिए जुनून रखने वाले को देना है। जो ज्ञान की शलाका आपने पाई है, वो ज्ञान के लिए जुनून रखने वाले को देना है। Same, you can remember that Singh sir, he was having that drive that I am having these qualities are best in me and I want to deliver my best. So Gyan ki Shalaka, the knowledge which we had acquired, we have to transfer the knowledge to a child who is having that desire, interest to acquire the knowledge, to learn something new. And this will help you to develop your motivation into a dynamism, to develop yourself as dynamic teacher. Thank you very much for hearing. You can share your remarks or reflection in chat box, or you can have questions in chat box, or you can unmute yourself and you can share. Okay, I will stop here. You can share your stories also, not only questions. Please.
Yes, so we have opened our Q&A session here. So dear teachers, if you have any comments, reflections and questions about the sessions, you can go ahead. You can raise your hand so that you can speak as well.
Namaskar, Prashant ji. Am I audible?
Yes.
Actually, that last sentence, can you explain once again? The sentence written in that book.
Okay.
The message.
Definitely. I will again share a slideshow so that you can read the sentence. Jo, it is visible?
Yes. Yes.
Jo Gyan ki Shalaka. Shalak means that knowledge is very vast, and the section of knowledge which you had acquired, you are having proficiency. So ज्ञान की शलाका जो आपने पाई है, मतलब जो हमारे पास है as a teacher, you have to hand over this to a student which is having that passion to acquire the knowledge. So it reflects the relation between a student and teacher. I can give few examples that you know that you can observe that a student, they always will go to teacher, they will ask question to a teacher, and then teacher will give him some task. So that Junoon means, if I don't know whether you had heard that Satyakam Jabala story. So he was that Satyakama was having that Junoon to acquire, he want to gain that wisdom what Gautam Rishi was having with him. So he went to Gautam Rishi, he requested him to give the knowledge, and then Gautam Rishi gave him a task. So that Junoon was there, he was working. You will find that in modern days also people, they are working in together, and for generations they are working together. So space discovery, ISRO, it started with efforts of senior scientists like Homi Bhabha and Bhatnagar. Number of people were involved. Then it was transferred to Govarikar, and then Abdul Kalam was there. So they are working for generations. to develop this path of knowledge, and it is working to it. That's why it's co-learning and teacher-student relation. So, जो सीखना चाहता है उसे देना, and you have to organize experiences for that.
Prashant sir, does it also mean that everything is not for everyone?
No. Everything is for everyone, but everyone is not having everything. Because if child is having interest in mathematics and child is having interest in music, he has to approach to two persons. Because a person is having that knowledge about mathematics and second person is having knowledge about music. So he has to go to two persons and then he has to request that I want to learn these things from you. So the teacher ultimately he has to give his best what he is having. But we are having our limitations. That's why we have to suggest is that either if he is having different interests, he has to approach to different gurus, or if he approaches me, suppose I am a music teacher, he approaches to me, I will teach him what I am having with me. But if a child is having that desire to go beyond my limitations, then I have to tell him that now you have to go to Pandit something, XYZ, a famous musician, or then he will be your second guru or greater guru, you can say. Same thing will be there. So knowledge is not differentiating anyone, but there are limitations. That's why learner, that junoon is very important. Learner has to and teacher has to ultimately do the best to deliver what he is having and help the student to, if he wants to do something better, then he has to, we have to help him to find better mentor from us also.
Wonderful. It is like passing the baton.
Passing the battle.
Yeah, sir, we are having two more questions in the chat box. One is asked by Shikha Didi. She is asking about the books you have read and got inspired from. The names, can you please share with the group? And the second question is from Partha sir. He is asking about some motivational tips for the teachers in this group to keep working, keep going on in this pandemic in the online mode. So, yeah.
Okay. For first question, again, same that Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Then I had read many books in Marathi, so I can tell you. I don't know. I will share name of few books, good books in our WhatsApp group. So that the list will help you to read that content instead of telling name of just 2 or 3 books. So one of the book is Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Second question is how to keep motivated. Again, that if you have that desire or that unsatisfaction that I am not able to interact with my students during pandemic situation, ultimately it will force you to do something. And depending upon the resources available, depending upon the expertise which you are having, you will find your way. That's why that inner drive is very important thing, and that's unsatisfaction regarding the interaction with the students. Okay, I enjoyed interaction, I enjoyed this field visit, no doubt, but these are few limitations, and in next field visit I will work on those limitations. So after every educational activity, in Marathi we say that shodh and bodh, means you have to do reflection and then you have to think about what kind of limitations were there, which things were can be done in better way. So this kind of reflection is very important thing.
Another question in the chat box is, I think it is very important. Swati Didi is asking about the demotivation coming from surroundings. So, what to do about that?
Okay, and there are 2 aspects regarding this. Ultimately, we have to live with the society, and the society or the different incidences in the society, our interaction with different people, their way of living, their norms regarding values, ultimately they are going to demotivate us. There will be hurdles in this also. Obstacles will be there, which will again demotivate us. But many times I feel that we are concerned, there are two spheres. One is sphere of influence and sphere of concern. And many times we spend our thought or we get embedded in the thought regarding sphere of concern, not sphere of influence. If I am appointed for teaching science to 8th standard, I have to think about them. What government is taking decision, what kind of things are happening there, something is happening outside the school. So no doubt we have to take concern of those things, but many times we get involved, our thought process, it limits our thought process. So you have to think about sphere of concern and you have to move yourself from this sphere of concern to sphere of influence. Sphere of influence means the tile on which I am working or I am standing. That will help you to overcome the motivation. And demotivation is one thing. Means you have to understand your system and you have to work within your system. Don't bother about what is happening outside your system. No doubt you have to take cognizance of those things, because ultimately they are going to have some influence on your system. But always think within your system what are positive things are there in your system and try to build on those positive notes. And ultimately that student teacher learning together will help you to overcome this demotivation. Second aspect regarding this to overcome this demotivation is I will say that last point which I mentioned is Prerna Jagruti Mitra and visiting good institutions. So why I visit Northeast? There are few friends are there in this meeting from Vivekananda Kendra. So why I visit Northeast? Vivekananda Kendra has invited me to share my experience. I visit Northeast so that under which conditions my friends are working there, what kind of motivation they are having with them, and ultimately that their vision, their passion for work, it helps me to keep myself motivated. Again, I will narrate one incident to conclude this session. One education officer of Vivekananda Kendra, Pandey sir, he was escorting me from one school to another school in Arunachal Pradesh. Very remote schools are there in Arunachal Pradesh. And Pandey sir, I think he is in Arunachal Pradesh and since last 30 to 40 years. And nowadays there are bridges, good roads are there. But earlier you have to cross Brahmaputra, landslides will be there. There was no electricity. Residential schools are there without facilities. During this rainy seasons, there were cutoffs, and you have to, due to this cutoff, there will be no ration, there will be no connection, no internet was there, no TV was there, no radio was there. So they were organizing the educational activities of Vivekananda Kendra in those difficult days also. And I was 2 years back, I was traveling with him on a tar road developed by Border Road Organization with around the speed of 60, 70 kilometers per hour. Earlier, it was difficult to travel with speed of 15 to 20 kilometers per hour due to bad road conditions. And I asked sir that since you are here since last 35 years, which phase was more enjoying thing? तो सर ने मेरी तरफ देखा और उन्होंने कहा, क्या है प्रशांत जी, उस समय भी मजा आता था, अब भी मजा आता है. That's why joy of being a teacher is very important thing. Joy of working with students is very important thing. उस समय भी मजा आता था, अब भी मजा आता है. So this approach will help you to keep yourself motivated. That's why we have to think about development of our panchakoshas, so that we can continuously try to touch that bliss sphere, that joy of being a teacher. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sir, can you stop sharing the?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prashant sir. We had one more question about autonomy, but you can get in touch with Bijan sir later. He is asking about how to take autonomy, and that is going to be an interesting but maybe a discussion in long run. So Bijan sir, you can totally get in touch personally with Prashant sir anytime. It was a wonderful session, and it was like it has been my pleasure to attend this one, because as Shubhankar Dada mentioned in the beginning of the session while introducing sir, I myself has been one of his students, so it gives me joy to listen to him and the way he tells stories and weaves the content in between those stories. So as usual, it was a good listening session. My personal takeaways from the session were a couple of things. One was teach the children and not teach your lesson, syllabus, your subject, and whatever is your content. The content is definitely important, but whom we are teaching is maybe the game changer, and we need to keep that in mind all the time being teachers. And the second takeaway towards the end, sir also reiterated that that having those Prerana Jagruti friends with us who will keep us going in even our struggles and conflicting periods of being a teacher, but they won't definitely demotivate you as your colleagues and friends. They will keep your motivation up. I always think that motivation is a very tricky thing. It comes from within. Once it comes from within, it will stay for you, with you forever. Whatever is your profession, it will keep you going. But sometimes we will also need some motivation from without, from around us, and which will keep us going. And thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Prashant sir, for sparing some time for us and for this wonderful session.